I don't want no oil, a spoil in my shoreline. I like fish much better than crud. I like birds and things, a-creeping and crawling. Won't trade no more oil for blood. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that black demon oil's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. I don't want them nukes run by them kooks who think radioactivity is fun. No more three-headed frogs or kids with leukemia. Nuclear power ain't fit for a dog. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that nuclear power's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. No nukes!
Good morning, Toledo, and good afternoon, Columbus, WGRN, and hello to all our listeners on the internet and Pacifica stations all over the country and all over the world. My name is Joe DeMare, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host,
Rebecca Wood.
Yes, and together, Rebecca and I are about to craft an incredible hour of radio called For a Green Future. For a Green Future is a show where we talk about ecology and the environment, and we talk about them in the ways that they affect you, your wealth, your health, your happiness, the wealth and health and happiness of your friends and family and co-workers and the trees and the plants and the bees and the fish and the birds and the amphibians, can't forget the amphibians, and basically everyone and everything, because, like it or not, we're all wrapped up together on this wonderful planet called Earth. And, as I said, we have a wonderful show for you today. Rebecca and I are going to be talking for the next 10 minutes or so, and during this time, please feel free to call or text. You can call in at 877-909-1007. That's 877-909-1007. And Jared will get you right on the air. Or you can also text at any point during the show, 419-973-5841. That's 419-973-5841. And I want to stress that number is available for texting anytime, 24/7. It doesn't have to be during the show. If you have any sort of comments or suggestions, we'd be happy to hear them at 419-973-5841. So it is a beautiful day out here in Northwest Ohio, and I spent yesterday gardening. Finally got some stuff in the ground. I've been meaning to for, weeks, because we've had all this warm weather. I think it's too late for peas. I gave up on trying to get peas in the ground this year, but I got, I got some tomatoes and beets and radishes and green peppers, just some basic stuff. It was cool, yeah. It's always nice. My son and I have decided to make our garden about half what we've been making it, because the size we had it, which is like about 50 feet by 20 feet, it got away from us every year. And so we're figuring if we just have half that, maybe we'll keep it weeded and all that
But
stuff.
yeah, better. Don't work hard, work smart.
Exactly. And so how about you folks? Anybody else putting in the garden this weekend? Or if you already got stuff in the ground, or maybe you've already been harvesting peas? I don't know. You can call in and lord it over us at 877-909-1007. And one way I've been kind of tempted to lord it over people, but I've been resisting, is what's been happening with the country with all these gas prices just through the roof. It is forcing the world basically to head over to alternative energy, to wind and solar power, in a way that nothing else has for the past 20 years. It's really just kind of shocking. And I was coming in, and I've been able to avoid getting gas for about the last just about the last month now since I had a fill up. And the way I do that is my Wonder Van, plug-in hybrid Chrysler Pacifica. If I plan carefully, and like this morning, I actually left an hour early because I plugged in at a free charger I know of in Perrysburg, and I was able to just sit there in the van to do all my show prep, which, you'd be just sitting at home at a table, so why not sit in your van and charge up at the same time? And I was all excited because I thought, oh, I'm going to be able to get through this whole trip, Bowling Green to Toledo and back on electric.
And then the freeway did bad things to Joe.
Yes, and then it turned out that the exchange to go from 475 to northbound I-75 is closed, just completely blocked off. And so I had to drive almost all the way back to Bowling Green to get on an exit to head north again. And of course, that used up all that charge that I spent the hour getting. And so I won't be all electric on this trip, but it still really has made it clear that going electric is a good way to avoid the spikes that you get with gas prices. And, some say that once the whole thing in the Middle East is worked out, gas prices will come back down again, but I'm not so sure. I think this might be a permanent increase. So my sympathies to everybody who's suffering right now with the gas prices. And, it's another reason to try to go electric if you can. Especially used electric car prices are very reasonable. And so, just a thought, just some advice. And one other thing I wanted to talk about in our introduction here, as I said, it's beautiful weather today, and it's a beautiful day to get out to go birding. Right now, we're actually in the beginning of the biggest week in American birding, which is sort of an official thing, because right now is when all the birds that migrate up from the south that spent the winter down in like Mexico and Central America, this is when they come back up. And so you can see, especially at McGee Marsh, this is a world-class birding event here in...
We have an out-of-town, my roommate has an out-of-town friend visiting, although she's staying at a hotel because she has to get up at like 5 in the morning and go out to, wherever they have that stuff, out east on the coast a lot. She's birding it up. She is.
She came to see the birds.
Yeah.
And as our guest last week said, the number of birders in America has been going through the roof. People are birding more and more. It turns out people like to be able to just go look at the birds rather than shoot them. Or the other animals. And this is really true, and it kind of touches on a story we have later on in the news section of our show. But that actually brings me to remind me that, okay, so we're going to go through what we're going to go through here. So we got another 5 minutes or so of just chatting, and then we're going to hear from our patrons, our wonderful, wonderful patrons. And then, Rebecca, it'll be your turn at the mic. What do you have to talk about today?
I am going to do a segment called Orangutans, the rainforest's worst mama's boys.
Okay.
They're all about mom and also mom.
I see. All right. Well,
and fruit.
Well, that's very appropriate for Mother's Day.
It is.
Yes.
That was my point.
Yes, and thank you. Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yes. And then after Rebecca's done, we'll have ecological news from around the world, and we're going to start out with a really, really good story, like an unbelievably, just wow, that actually happened. Kind of good story.
Cool.
So stick around for that. And so, all right. Unfortunately, we have what unfolded down in Richland County this past week, because this was the week of primary elections here in Ohio, and there was on the ballot in Richland County a proposal to overturn that county's ban on wind and solar power. And we've been following that story since the folks who wanted to do it started their petition drive to put that ballot question on there. What happened is that the township officials just banned wind and solar. They're like, no more wind and solar. And so a lot of people disagree with that. And so they put it on the ballot this past Tuesday. Unfortunately, they lost.
The thing is, you never really hear about any super fund rushing in to to clean up a place where there was wind or solar. That doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah. Well, as you'll hear, the disinformation surrounding these wind and solar farms is just incredible. So, but I think let's go hear from Brian McPeek, who was one of the main organizers of this event. We kind of did a post-mortem interview with him, and so let's go to that interview now.
All right, hello, and welcome back to For a Green Future. Could you please just share your name and who you're with?
Yes, my name is Brian McPeek II. I'm with the IBW Local 688, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers here in Mansfield, Ohio.
Aha. And we're talking about Richland County today because you folks just had a referendum there. Could you please sort of give us a background of why you needed a referendum and what the results were?
For sure. So last year, our county commissioner sent out a letter to all of our township trustees asking them about banning large-scale wind and solar in the unincorporated areas of the county, which they have the authority to do through Senate Bill 52. And by they, the county commissioners are the only ones who have that authority, but they did extend, to them to weigh in. So in July of last year, they banned 11 of our 18 townships from wind and solar. When that goes through Senate Bill 52, you have 30 days to collect signatures. You need to get signatures equaling 8% of the amount of voters from the previous governor's election. Mm-hmm. But you only have 30 days to do it. So I think I probably told you this last time, but we were not, ready to do that because there was not much public knowledge about what was going on with that, which was why we wanted to do it. So we ended up collecting the signatures, getting the ballot language. And by the time we started collecting signatures, we had, when I say ballot language, getting the petition language, I'm sorry, that needed to be made by an attorney. So we got that made. And by the time we were ready to start collecting signatures, we had about 25 days. And we were able to do it. We got it put on the ballot. So we just ran a campaign for the past few months about what happened, why it matters, once we got the language from the Secretary of State who writes the ballot language, we went through and did an educational piece. We did a bunch of town halls just explaining what it meant. A yes vote was to uphold the ban and a no vote overturned it. And most importantly, a no vote and overturning the ban does not mean unlimited development. It just means that we can review the case and go through the normal regulatory process that's been in place forever. So the vote was Tuesday, May 5th. We ended up losing by a pretty slight margin. In a record turnout, we had we were second in the state for turnout percentage in Richland County. So, our goal of bringing this issue to light, I think we succeeded big time. So I'm super proud. We had a really good team. We all worked together really well. Unfortunately, we did not win, but the county knew what was going on and conversations were had. So the biggest thing from my standpoint is holding our elected officials accountable to the people who live here and making sure that our community is engaged in, how we shape the future. So I think we succeeded in both of those.
Okay. So, yeah, of course, we're interested in For a Green Future on the environmental aspects of this, the banning of essentially the cleanest energy sources that are available today, the wind and the solar. But it seemed like, watching from afar, it seemed like your campaign was more focused on property rights. And I saw some lawn signs. You were saying no ban on property rights, vote no. And I don't know, do you think that was an effective strategy, or do you think maybe
it might have been more effective to take the environmental question sort of head on.
Yeah, so I think, and I said this the whole time. I don't think that I mean, while it affected wind and solar, I don't think wind and solar was what was really on the ballot. It was government overreach, and that was why we kind of, went the no ban on property rights. Richland County, the last election was plus 44 for Trump. This is a pretty deep red county. And, I talked to many people in the county pretty often. I mean, I know a lot of people, and, through my job, I end up talking to a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds. And, I think from all sides, nobody likes more government overreach. And that's what this was. I mean, even without a ban, natural gas, coal, nuclear, any other form of energy doesn't have to go before the local elected officials. It's handled at state level. This was put in to, cripple the renewable energy market in the state. Natural gas was big in getting that pushed through. And Ohio was also the first state to make natural gas considered a form of green energy as well. So, how that is, I don't know, but yeah. I think at the end of the day, I think our campaign was effective. I know there was some exit pollers, and they determined that there was still a lot of confusion on the ballot language, which I don't know if you're from Ohio or not, but this is a common thing that we hear from the Secretary of State's office, and the language is it's confusing. What does this mean? Even from our own, like my own members ask me the same question, like what does this mean? What's one way or this? So we focused heavy on just the education portion of it, and stressing that this does not give renewable energy a just free pass to do whatever they want. It just lets energy projects be heard, and we can go over the merits, because at the end of the day, no matter what the project is, not all projects are right for Richland County or any area for that matter. So, but we don't know that until we weigh the pros and cons.
Right. Well, that's a very reasonable, position to take. And I'm just going to ask one more question on this angle here.
Yeah.
Again, looking from afar, it seemed like in the social medias and so forth that the main attacks on what you were trying to do weren't talking about property rights or weren't talking about regulation. They were attacking wind and solar with the usual disinformation, with just the plain old they poison the earth, and it's going to take all our farmland, and so how much of that disinformation did you come across, and did you guys counter it directly, or did you keep taking on how did you respond to it?
Yeah, so no, I think that was the strategy was, make it confusing. And, from our side, and I've said this in so many elections, the only way that we win is by making sure everybody knows what, the facts are, and bringing people together. Well, the anti groups, they win by spreading disinformation, getting people angry, and splitting people apart. And I mean, that was the strategy. A couple of days, I think a day before the election, an article came out after a records request was put in that, at least one of our commissioners was talking to a natural gas consultant about, this. He sent him an email, mission accomplished, after they banned it. And then there was a reporter who forwarded him a article about the effects of a ban on a county, the economic impact that it had. It was a study done by Ball State. It's a very good study. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but basically what it showed was it was very, very negative economically to a county to ban these. Well, this wasn't necessarily just building or not building. It was just, those, if they had a wind and solar ban, they were bringing in significantly less economic amount of money, basically, and that was manufacturing and not just energy development, just overall. where if they did not have a ban in place, and not necessarily a project, but just not have a ban in place, it was significantly more economic. It was in the positive instead of being in the negative.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't remember those numbers, but he forwarded that to right on his county commissioner email to a natural gas consultant and says, how should I respond to this other than just saying that this is a bunch of liberal bull? That's exactly what he said. And I mean, the fact that our elected officials, don't look at these issues and say, okay, I'm making this decision, I need to have all the facts, and instead say, how do I, debunk this study from a respected university, the next state, Ball State's in Indiana, instead of saying, what merit does this have? Did I make the right decision? I mean, I say it all the time. I'm a leader. I'm in charge of making a lot of decisions here. And if I make a decision and I get information later that says, hey, maybe I made the wrong decision, I'm going to revisit it. I'm not just going to blow it off as, I'm right, because I think we all know we're not all right all the time. So, I mean, that was probably the most disheartening to me. And I think I might have went off on a tangent here and forgot a little bit of your question. I did. I think we all were pretty active on social media trying to, help with the education piece. Winning keys all along, in my opinion, were making sure everybody knows what this does, what this means, and getting the facts out. And we tried really hard to get the facts out before that misinformation starts, because it's a lot easier to educate people than it is to try and prove to them that they've been lied to.
Right.
So that was my strategy from the get-go anyhow, and I think everybody kind of was on board with that strategy, was just getting that education piece out, because I still, even after the vote, I still think if everybody knows all of the information on what they're voting on, there's just no way that you could be for a ban.
What next? Any ideas about, or are you just sort of regrouping? Do you have some ideas on how to push it forward in the future? Or?
At this point, I think really the only way to change that is the county commissioners changing their decision. I mean, they have the ability to do that. I mean, I would have to, I think would need to be done on election day. I don't think they're just going to do it out of the kindness of their heart. So,
Okay.
I mean, really moving forward, it's just, for me, and the IBW. Now, obviously, I was working on this campaign not as an IBW member, but just as a, community member. Obviously, my expertise in energy was beneficial, but I wasn't working through the IBW while working on the campaign. But our big thing is we're just pro building, we're pro energy in general. So whatever the next form of development is, it's under attack, or even if it's not necessarily under attack, but just educational pieces. I mean, that's what I'm here for. I think 99% of the time, the people who are really up in arms against any form of development don't have the whole picture. Now, not always. Sometimes, some of these projects are not good projects. I mean, I'll be the first to say it, and I am pretty strongly opinionated. And I won't get behind a project that I don't believe in. So, but I think, at the end of the day, my goal is just to hold our elected officials accountable, just as I want my members to hold me accountable in my job. So that's kind of the strategy moving forward for me.
Well, thanks, Brian. Anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so. Thank you guys for covering it. I think this was an uphill battle from the start, and I think we did fantastic. And our whole team, I mean, I'm just proud of all of them. We all worked our butts off, and I think at the end of the day, we did a great job, even though we lost.
Well, and you're the first to attempt this.
Right.
So I think, and I hope you won't be the last. But
oh, me too. I think we put a good strategy forward on how to tackle these, and hopefully, if more people follow our lead, hopefully they can use us and improve and do better, and hopefully win. So I've said it from the beginning. This was an impossible task. When they asked if I would be interested in helping take this on, I'm like, man, how difficult this is going to be. I've seen so many developers try to do this and fail. with big checks and everything else, and we're just a group of local residents who are fed up, and we outperformed big time. So I think one of the big things we showed on election day, I believe only one in every five ballots pulled was a Democrat ballot, and
Mhm.
we, I mean, it was pretty much a toss up. It was basically 50-50, 1,300 votes, and we had almost 24,000 people vote. So,
Oh, wow,
I
yeah.
mean, really, it was quite the toss up at the end of the day. And I
That is
think
close. Yeah.
we really proved this isn't a partisan issue. And,
Mhm.
you know, the commissioners kept saying, well, the communities asked for this. The communities didn't even know. And I think how close it was shows that if I was a leader and I polled the whole county and I got almost 50-50 results, I'm just going to keep the process as is. And, they keep saying that, well, the community was behind. I don't think that was the case. And a good amount, well, I think there was still confusion at the polls, but the exit pollers, everybody that they talked to, obviously don't talk to all of them, but I think it was around 90% of the people that came and voted were familiar with our campaign, at least in some way, shape, or form. So, I mean,
Mhm.
we've reached a lot of people, and I mean, I'm just proud. After getting it on the ballot, I said, we won right there.
Okay. And I think you guys have won too because you got to hear the kind of story that you literally will not hear anywhere else. I mean, I think it was important to talk to Brian and to kind of do a post-mortem on why this didn't pass. And I do agree with him that when you know all the facts about things like these solar bans and these wind power bans, when you know all the facts, you're like, why are we banning these things?
Mm-hmm.
And so I hats off to them for making as I said, the first attempt to overturn these nonsensical bans. What's your opinion? Give us a call, 877-909-1007, or text 419-973-5841. Do you think they handled it right, or do you think they should have been more just sort of head on, this is good for the environment, and the idea that solar panels are poisoning the land is just ridiculous. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, if you do that and the property rights angle, you've got something for both sides to latch onto.
right, which is actually what we're seeing with the data center issue. Yeah. So, all right. Well, on to our thanking of the patrons, our weekly thanking of the wonderful, wonderful people who have gone to patreon.com. That's Patreon. There they searched for Green Future. Up popped our cool Patreon page. They scrolled down looking at the different membership levels, picked a membership level that matched their budget, and now every month a little bit comes out of their accounts, comes over to us, and that's how we can afford to keep this wonderful show on the air, which, as I said, we are giving you interviews and information that you won't get anywhere else, frankly. And one of our unique sources of information is Rebecca, because every week Rebecca has a turn at the mic. And let's see, what are we talking about again this week?
Orangutans. I decided to do them because they reliably make Hood Nature's, who's a social media content creator that I like a lot. They make his list of good moms every year, along with, I see, alligators are surprisingly good moms. Who else am I thinking of? Anyway, they're definitely on the list. Oh, I think orcas. They're really great grandmas, though. That's where they really shine.
Orcas?
Yeah, yeah. They have grandmas. They're one of the few species that has grandmas. Us and orcas.
Nice.
So yeah, orangutans are tree-dwelling great apes who live in Sumatra and Borneo, which are islands in Indonesia and Malaysia. Let's see. One of them is just in Indonesia. I think the other one's in both.
Okay.
So maybe it's the other way around. Anyway, they live in rainforests, and they're smart. They're redheads. They have super long arms. They're solitary, so they don't really live in troops like a lot of great apes do. It's just kind of mama and her babies, and the dad has a big territory to patrol, so he kind of steps in occasionally.
Helicopter dad.
Yeah, which sounds well. No, helicopter parents are the ones that constantly circle.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
Yeah.
they zipped in and out. So.
Yeah, no. Well, that would
Okay.
be a thing. That might be a better idea, actually. But yeah, it's important that the dads do this because Stepdads are very bad news in the world of mammals for young animals. So,
Yeah.
he's got a job to do. He's on the case. They're primarily fruit eaters, which means they're important to the environment because they dispense seeds a lot. Without orangutans, we're not sure how well the rainforest would do at growing in that part of the world. And they also eat bark, leaves, and insects a little bit. There's 3 species. There's Sumatran, which is in Sumatra in the island of Indonesia, or the country of Indonesia. The island of Sumatra and the country of Indonesia. There's the Bornean orangutan species, which is both in Indonesia and Malaysia. I think because one of those Borneo is split between Indonesia and Malaysia. It's like Santo Domingo in the Caribbean, which has Haiti and
Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic in it. Yeah, except for I think that those 2 countries are not just on that island. They just share that island for some reason. They split it, probably colonialism, blah, blah, blah. Borneo, by the way, I believe is the 3rd largest island in the world, I think. It's a big island. So, then there's the Tapanuli species, which lives in the Tapanuli Regency, which is an administrative district / region. It's in northern Sumatra, Indonesia, and it's mountainous. This is what I know about it. So, they're in the most trouble ecologically speaking.
Yes.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of trouble.
all of them, however, are threatened by habitat loss, mostly, and also the illegal orangutan trade. Like the poachers, steal the babies and things.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, so they are the largest arboreal tree-dwelling animals. I guess animals, period, not just mammals. And one of the reasons why they're count as good moms, according to Hood Nature, and I think he has a point, is they have a very slow reproductive rate. They don't have very many babies. It's a long time between babies. And the offsprings are very slow to mature and leave their moms because there's a lot to learn about being an orangutan, apparently. You can't just, you can't get by on just instinct, I guess. So the males also are big mama's boys in the sense of they having an arm span of 7 feet.
Oh, wow.
And let's see, the Bornean is called Pongo pygmaeus. Sumatran is Pongo abelli, and the Tapanuli is Pongo tapanuliensis, I believe.
Pongo. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Pongo, which is the name of the, what you call them, the Dalmatians and 101 Dalmatians. It's Perdita and Pongo. Yeah. So, but they have the slowest reproductive rate of any mammal. They have a baby every 7 to 9 years. The females do. Females mature in 12 to 15 years, and the males in 18 to 20 years. It's just when they go off to have their own families. And orangutan females are pregnant for almost a year. According to the Topeka Zoo, they pretty much have to learn to cling on at birth, or they're toast, unless you live in a zoo, and then the zookeepers might try and help you. Females typically will have only 3 to 4 surviving offspring in their lifespan, and they're fertile throughout their lives. They don't have menopause. And so but actually. One pretty unique about thing about orangutans that they share with humans is that the adults will bring their babies back to show their mama.
Oh.
And the boys just come back and visit just 'cause. There's no ecological reason for this. They just do it. It's not survival related as far as we can tell. They carry the babies for an entire 2 to 3 years, and they stay through their teenage years. Early teens before they move out. So there's a lot of interaction there, Oh, octopi, that's the other one. That's the other really good moms.
Oh, octopi moms.
Yeah.
Well, because they're willing to literally die for
their
young.
Just have a baby, take care of the baby, and die. That's it.
Right. Imagine the guilt trip an octopus mom could lay on there.
I know. Yeah.
Huh. Well, thank you.
Well, it'd have to be a ghost octopus mom.
And they're also scarily intelligent. I read a story once by a rainforest researcher who they weren't specifically orangutan researchers, but they were out and they got lost in one of these forests. And all of a sudden, this orangutan just appeared out of nowhere, held out a hand, and then literally led that person back to their own camp.
Also, they're the biggest tool users, I think, of any great ape. In fact, they're infamous for being able to reverse engineer their cages if you leave a screwdriver in it.
Nice.
They're
nice.
the Harry Houdinis. And they just walk around and, like, snatch chicken wings from tourists at the zoo is all they do. They just look at stuff,
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Rebecca. That was a good story. And yeah, they are very threatened, especially by the palm oil industry.
Yeah.
But okay, on to ecological news. And as promised, the first story is great. Last week, we reported about the what was going on out there at the Black Hills, where a bunch of indigenous youth were locked down at a drilling site for exploratory drilling for a graphite mine. This was a group called the NDN Collective, and they have won.
Hot diggity.
I know. This is like, what?
Go indigenous youth.
It's not going to take years and thousands and thousands of people to try to do this, but no, they let out a press release on May 8th, and the title was Peshla Protectors Win.
Cool.
Drilling operation plan withdrawn. Community organizing, ceremony, lawsuit, occupation of site leads to victory. And basically what's happened is they tried to go in there breaking all kinds of laws, breaking NEPA, breaking agreements with the Forest Service, between the tribes and the Forest Service. They wanted to just zip in there and start mining before anybody could react. Well, as we said, these brave indigenous youth went and occupied the site. They taped themselves to mining equipment in order to pause the mining until this could be heard in court for a temporary restraining order. Well, they got that temporary restraining order, and then, so the drilling had to stop and the equipment had to be removed, and then they gave up.
Cool.
They said, this is not worth it. They
Yeah.
sent a letter to the U.S. Forest Service saying that we will no longer be attempting to mine in the Black Hills.
So thank you, NDN Collective, and I'm nobody, but I'm real proud of you.
Yeah. So the occupation actually lasted a week, and one of the members of the Indian Collective has a quote here. A fellow named Wizapan Gariat said, today's successful protection of Peshla, which is the result of courageous land defense by the community, strategic legal action, and collective prayer, makes a great victory for the people and Mother Earth.
Good job.
So it's not often we get to do just a straight feel-good story, but there you have. There's one. Okay.
You're darn tootin'.
So, of course, the next story is kind of terrible.
Uh,
Yeah. And this is coming back here to Ohio. And we've reported on this before. SB 294. This is the law that gets rid of wind and solar power by saying that any new power source approved by the Ohio Power Siting Board has to have at least a 50% capacity factor, which means
is that?
that means it has to be generating power at least half the time, which sunlight, for example, solar power, like in the wintertime, the sun isn't even up half the day. And so, they can't physically generate power 50% of the time.
Okay, what would happen though if you could circumvent this? Could you circumvent this by having like a plant, an area like owned by the same company which does both wind and solar?
Almost. See, the thing is that wind power usually has a capacity factor of about 25%.
Okay.
So putting wind and solar on the same site can get you almost to 50, but not quite, which is probably why they picked 50. But the whole point is that you don't need 50%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because like in California and like in Iowa is getting 80% of its electricity from the wind.
Because we can store electricity and use it later.
Yes, with batteries and pumped hydro and all kinds of technologies. And so you can supply 100%.
It's like in the Bible with the 7 cows and the Pharaoh's dream with the lean and the fat cows. And
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have grain elevators. See, batteries are the grain elevators of power.
Exactly. And it also by getting rid of solar panel, you also cut out the fact that solar provides the most power at the point of highest demand. They provide, at peak power times when the sun is really hot, everybody's got all their air conditioning going. That's when solar puts out the most energy.
I hadn't thought of that, but it's true.
And that's what you want.
Or when it's really cold and there's a lot of wind.
Then the wind is going at
Right.
full blast.
Right.
And so even though they don't have 50% capacity factors, they can provide plenty of power at the critical times. And in fact, if you've got an energy source which is not flexible, like a nuclear power plant,
Right.
half the time they're putting out power that isn't actually needed.
Right.
Because, power demand goes way down at night. And so you don't really want to have to be forced to take all the power of a nuclear power plant or even a natural gas plant when there's no demand.
Right. It's wasteful.
So this is all 100% insane. So even though like a nuke plant will have a 92% capacity factor, that is coming when whether we need the power or not. Basically, you've got no choice but to take it. And of course, nuclear plants also sometimes go down for years at a time. Davis-Besse famously was offline for about 3 years when they had their hole in the head accident. And so basically, this is just stupidity. But the last hearing...
Because we need nuclear like a hole in the head.
Yes. But the final hearing on this bill is Tuesday, 10 a.m. in Columbus. You can make comments on it up until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Monday morning. And if it passes out of committee, then it'll get voted on by the whole Ohio legislature. And I don't know. This is looking pretty grim for rationality here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next story. The Guardian on May 4th. And this is a terrible story. Title is Point of No Return. New Orleans relocation must start now due to sea level. Study finds. Yeah.
New Orleans is really not going to be the same if you relocated. Like, they're not going to be able to move all the houses.
Well, they're not talking about moving the houses. They're talking about moving the people.
Which is good. That's a good start. But, it's not really going to be New Orleans anymore.
No.
Just kind of a giant trailer park on the Gulf.
Yeah. It'll kind of be like Atlantis, people have.
Yeah.
But basically, they're saying that because there's a couple factors going on here. One is that the sea level is rising, and it doesn't rise evenly everywhere, but around New Orleans at that point of the Gulf of Mexico, they're predicting a 20-foot sea level rise.
Well, yeah, plus, Lake Pontchartrain is like above the city. Like, if you're in New Orleans, there are places where you could look up and see boats,
Right. And
so it's already pretty low.
Yeah, and it's getting lower because what's been happening is a century of oil and gas extraction.
Mm-hmm.
You've pumping all that oil and gas out of the ground. New Orleans has been physically sinking.
Oh, boy.
So the sea is rising 20 feet.
Oh, boy.
The land is sinking at a rapid and accelerating rate. And both these things together means that the city will literally be underwater by the end of this century.
So we've just decided to go ahead and throw away one of the coolest and most interesting places in America already.
Yeah, in the world even, yeah.
Yeah.
3/4 of the wetlands around in that delta will be lost. The shoreline is moving 62 miles inland. And we're talking about 360,000 people having to move.
Wow.
And
that is wild.
And the process actually has already started because floods are becoming much more regular and much more severe. In fact, just yesterday...
People naturally don't want to be there anymore.
Right. Just yesterday, in a local radio TV station in New Orleans, that they had a story, neutral ground parking allowed. This is Channel 4 in New Orleans. So neutral ground parking allowed in New Orleans as severe storms and flash flooding threaten the area.
What is that?
What neutral ground parking means, basically, you're being allowed to put your car wherever it won't be underwater.
Okay, that makes sense.
Once the floods hit.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
So, but that means you could park like in your neighbor's yard if you know that your neighbor's house isn't going to get surrounded
Which is a
by
great
water.
help when you were trying to get in your car and leave during a flood.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and they're saying they're cautioning people don't drive through the floodwaters.
That makes sense.
And so, so basically what's happening when the Gulf of Mexico moves in is New Orleans for a while will be an island city, completely surrounded by water.
Wow.
They've rebuilt their levees after the huge hurricane down there, but in 2005, but those levees are already too short to block this sea level rise. And so sorry, New Orleans, you're doomed, and it's terrible. And this kind of follows along the same lines we reported a few weeks back that Tehran, Iran, also has to abandon their city. And that's a city.
Oh, wow, because they're right between two rivers. That makes sense.
Well, that's
Near an ocean.
Well, no, their problem, there's 9 million people. Their problem is those rivers are running dry because they've had 8 years of drought.
Oh, wow.
And so they don't have enough water. So
chaos reigns, man.
Yeah, so New Orleans has too much water. Tehran has not enough water. And so the exodus has begun, basically.
Jeez.
We've been predicting this since we started talking about global warming, and now it's happening, and we're not happy.
Here we go. Yeah, probably New York is next,
Could be.
It's on an island.
Yeah. Speaking of New York, our next story, New York Times, May 4th. More than 150 wind projects stall as Pentagon delays reviews. And so it used to be you did an application for a wind farm, and you have to put in an application with the FAA, and they're supposed to make sure that you're not blocking the approach to an airport or something. And as part of that process, the FAA just sends a memo to the Defense Department saying, "Oh, we're not blocking any kind of Army depot or anything like that." And usually in the past, it's been very routine. It's pretty easy to determine, if you're 50 miles away from the nearest military airstrip, you're not going to get in the way of...
Should be okay.
Right. And those approvals used to come, very quickly. But now they've literally just stopped giving the approvals. And it doesn't matter how far from a military base or anything, they're just not responding to any of the requests. This started back in August, but literally in the past few weeks, it went from slowing things down to stopping. 100% blockage. They've refused to deal with any applications. And some of these farms where they want to put the wind farm are 100 miles from the nearest base. But the fellow named Dale Marks, who's the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Energy Installations and the Environment, he literally has to sign the permission slip to build a wind farm, and he's just refused to sign any of them.
Okay.
We're guessing directly on orders from Trump.
Yeah.
Because Trump cannot stand wind. And, so this is really bad news.
I think the FFA is perfectly capable of figuring out whether or not there's military aircraft in the area.
Right. Yeah.
I think they can do that. They were up to that job. So
there's a quote from the article in the New York Times, a fellow named Jason Grummett from the American Clean Power Association said, the DOW is currently making it almost impossible to build a new wind project in the United States. So, very bad. And another very bad story. We're going to try to lighten things up a little bit for our last story. No, we're not. I'm sorry. I got confused.
More bad news.
But May 8th, this is a story by PBS News. And Trump is lifting restrictions on hunting in national parks and other areas.
Great.
So, essentially, Doug Burgum, the horrible Interior Secretary, sent a memo in January telling park ranger, directors of parks to open everything to hunting unless specific, documented, and legally supported exceptions apply. So, in other words, the default is you can go shoot anything, anywhere, anytime you want, unless there's a study that says this will wipe out a species or something like that.
Okay.
Which, these parks no longer have any budget to do any kind of studies.
Well, if it's endangered, that probably means it's very close to being wiped out. So,
yeah.
Most national parks have an endangered species or two in them,
Yeah, and that's, I've taken some basic ecology college courses, and one of the main principles of how species survive is that, most species need to have some sort of protected area where they can, have a base population that can
Right.
reproduce, without being wiped out. And once you've got that, then you can start, sending out colonists and trying to spread.
Right.
But without that safety net, without that safe place where you can have, the endangered species, the populations can quickly drop to zero. So this is horrible. And as part of this, now you're allowed to put hunting stands anywhere you want, and you can bring your hunting dogs to the national parks. Your ATVs, you're allowed to bring your ATVs because if you kill an elk, you're not going to carry it out. You got to take a
Presumably
4-wheeler
not,
in there
yeah.
and drag it out.
Man.
And they're also allowing to cleaning kills in the restrooms, in the bathrooms.
What
at
the
national
hell?
park.
Nobody wants that. You're going to walk in and there's going to be like a giant bloody elk
Yes,
sitting
exactly.
there looking at you.
Elk guts in your bathroom.
That's going to be very unpleasant for people.
And giving you accusatory stare as you try to make your way to the stall. With,
Yeah.
it's
It's like a horror movie.
It is. It literally is like a horror movie. So turns out only 4.2% of adults in the United States identify as hunters of any sort. And, as opposed to
Well, they have all the rights.
we just
for
heard
some
last
reason.
week that, something like a third of American adults identify as birders.
Right.
So you have 1/10, less than a tenth. I forget what, like 5%.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it's only 4%. What am I saying? 4%
Who are literally going to ruin things for everyone.
are hunters.
Literally.
Who now get to go into any park and shoot any animal anytime they want, as opposed to the 35% that want to go and just watch birds and animals without.
Okay.
Seeing
This strikes
them
me as also
shot.
sort of dangerous. Probably some people are going to get shot.
It is dangerous, yes, and that is one of the criticisms that people are doing, but that doesn't stop Doug Burgum and President Trump from just doing it anyway.
Right.
So, yeah, no, you will be seeing park goers getting shot once this gets in full swing. There's no question about it. And one of the worst sorts of people that this allows into the parks are that tiny sliver of insane people that just like to shoot as many animals as possible. I was
Yeah.
reading a diary or an internet post by this couple who just love to shoot prairie dogs, and their idea of a good time is just to find a prairie dog town, park their car and their high-powered rifle, and just sit there shooting them one by one and seeing how many they can kill. And this post that I saw was one weekend where they said, "Oh, we managed to shoot 500 prairie dogs. This was a great day." And it's like, those are the people now that will be going into the parks. And
So now, if you get too close to a buffalo in the Yellowstone and it gores you, you can get revenge.
I guess so.
I guess. Instead
Yeah.
of just acting like you got some sense to begin with.
Yeah. So one quote from this article on PBS News was from Elaine Leslie, who used to be National Park Service Biological Resources Department head. She said, quote, "I don't want to take my young grandchildren to a park only to have a hunter drag a gutted elk across the visitor center parking lot." And we couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think we're
Not
all
to
in
mention,
agreement.
if your toddler has to go to the bathroom, that's going to give them some permanent trauma. They're never going to get potty trained.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah.
potty elk! Ah!
Yeah. Good point. Very good point. Yeah. So let's hope somebody could reverse this horrible decision, but it doesn't look good. So, well, I guess we do have time for one more story. Little depressing. Basically, the West is on fire. There's big fires burning in Arizona, New Mexico, and California. According to the Arizona Interagency Wildlife Map online, there's a mixture of both extreme heat and so there's like one of the biggest fires is the Hazen fire that's 1,200 acres. They had a very dry winter and very low snowpack. So even though after their very dry winter, they had a lot of rain, so the quote unquote precipitation level is almost back to normal. They don't have much snowpack, which means that the land is not being kept moist. It kind of rains and runs off and dries out again. which means that the whole area is very susceptible to fire. And if you live in parts of California, you've been told to stay indoors starting last night and for about 60 hours because the temperatures are going to be up around 112. And so they're saying, the health officials in California are saying, stay in your house with the air conditioner going. Don't even go outside because it's dangerous, which is kind of the perfect metaphor for our times. All right. Well, we still have another minute.
What's going on with Canada? Did they ever put out the wildfires there all the way?
Yeah, they did. Well,
Thank God.
Well, I mean,
They're probably going to reignite.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
But.
Some of them just went underground into the duff of the forest.
So no, they didn't.
No.
Basically.
Yeah, no.
Great.
Yeah. So sorry to be so negative this episode of For a Green Future, but at least we had that wonderful story at the start.
Yes.
And where they stopped the graphite mine from destroying the Black Hills. So we're very grateful for that. And it's good to see these effective defenses because there's attacks are on all fronts. But we have to get back to the point where we're actually making progress toward a greener, cleaner future instead of just trying to stop all the horrible attacks.
Yeah.
So we got to move from defense back to offense. Oh, we got a text. Oh, just somebody said Happy Mother's Day. So,
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, Happy Mother's Day once again.
Happy.
To all the mothers and to Mother Earth and to everyone on the planet. That's it for this show. Thanks so much for listening. This is Joe DeMare.
And Rebecca Wood.
We are signing off.
This country run, but that black demon oil's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. I don't want them nukes run by them kooks who think radioactivity is fun. No more three-headed frogs or kids with leukemia. Nuclear power ain't fit for a dog. The sun done give us all we need to make this country run. But that nuclear power's got us fussing and fighting, and I do believe it's time we was done. No nukes!